Kyle Shanahan, what he looks for in quarterbacks. We're all talking about who's he going to get, what's he want. Well, what does he look for? Vish, what do you think?
This is going to be the thing we're going to talk about for the next 6 months, right? The Niners are not making the playoffs. It's we can't even go and think, well, if these two teams lose and the Niners win these games, they can do it. It's over. And it's going to be about where they draft and who the quarterback is going to be. I think most people think that they're going to move off of Jimmy Garoppolo. I guess maybe there's a situation that they keep Jimmy Garoppolo. Who knows? But there's going to be a lot of speculation because this is something that's a total enigma. Here's what we know about Kyle Shanahan. Here's the facts. Whatever quarterback he gets, he maximizes it, right? Here's what we don't know. We haven't seen Kyle Shanahan go through the process of, hey, I'm the offensive coordinator here. This is the guy I like. Let's draft him and let me spend time developing him. And
sure. If you give him Matt Ryan at 32 years old and he's been to a couple Pro Bowls and maybe had a little dip in his career, like bring in Kyle Shanahan in that zone and that outside stretch zone and the play action, he'll get the most out of it.
We've seen it, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, right? We're talking about a quarterback with an average arm, limited field vision, and he put up top 5 numbers and went to the Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan. Nick Mullens, a guy, if we're ranking all the quarterbacks who started yesterday, he's dead last in terms of physical ability. And he, with Kyle Shanahan, is putting up numbers in terms of passing yards comparable to Andrew Luck and Patrick Mahomes.
4,400 yards in his first career 16 games. It's amazing what that little guy does.
So it just tells you how special he is at maximizing those guys. Sure. But he hasn't had the opportunity, right, to go through the process of what Andy Reid just did with Mahomes, that process. And he did it with Donovan McNabb. That process hasn't been there for Kyle Shanahan yet. And everybody has an opinion on it, right? But the reality is drafting quarterbacks is hard. Kyle Shanahan has 2 that we can really attach to him in Kirk Cousins, CJ Beathard. I guess he's 1 for 2, but Kirk Cousins, I feel like he wasn't there for a bulk of his development. That kind of happened when McVay was the OC. So that's there. So he's 1 for 2.
You can definitely see that Shanahan has a type, though.
Right,
I mean, he was like, okay, I can do it again with CJ Beathard. And Beathard isn't Cousins, but you can see that Shanahan saw shades of Cousins there.
Right. And you can see what he likes even in Beathard, right? You can see the traits on why he drafted him. He just didn't work out. It's what it is. And so when you look at, so you can tell those things, right? And so everybody wants to say, well, he liked this guy before this draft. I don't like getting into that because I think that people often attach their names to other players once they turn out to be successful. I feel like 2 years, 3 years from now, we're going to hear about the more and more people that liked Mahomes before the draft and somebody said no to them. When in reality, of the famous guys, I remember Sean Payton loved Mahomes. Andy Reid evidently loved Mahomes. They took Mahomes. And I remember Bruce Arians before that draft was obsessed with Patrick Mahomes. So those are the 3. But I'm sure we're going to hear about a million more people over the next 15 years as Patrick Mahomes has his Hall of Fame career and people say, I liked Mahomes. And some scout on the Niners is going to say, I liked Mahomes, but they said no to me. So I don't like getting into that. We don't know. And drafting quarterbacks is obviously such an imperfect science. It's the hardest thing to do in sports. There's a reason why the Patriots do it every single year. It's simple statistics. If you keep drafting a quarterback, you're more likely to get it right. Like if the hit rate of a quarterback is 30%, right? Then if you take that 30% chance every single year, you're increasing your probability of getting a guy. And even then, they've only hit on 2. Can you say 2? Brady and Garoppolo as hits. Yeah. So it's a real imperfect science, and everybody's going to get into it. So the things, let's talk about what we know with Kyle Shanahan and his quarterbacks, right? So let's start with his words. So he did interview was him, Matt LaFleur, and Sean McVay after Matt LaFleur got hired. And one of the questions in the interview is, what do you look for in a quarterback? So this is a year ago. So his opinion might have evolved from there, but let's just go through what he says that he looks for in a quarterback. Let me get this, my bad. I lost my flow. Okay. So there's a lot in here. So, okay. So what's your deal breaker? What's the trait you can't tolerate? So this is basically when he talks about what he looks for in a quarterback by saying what he doesn't look for. He says, if a guy's scared to take a hit, he has no chance of playing this league. You have to use your brain, and there's so much going on in the heat of battle. Your mind has to be clear when the ball is snapped to understand coverages and throw the ball into tight windows to get the ball to the right spots. So what I take from that, reading that, right, is 2 things stand out to me. He's obsessed with toughness. We know this. That means he wants his quarterback to not be thinking about the next hit he's taking. He wants him to be solely focused on what the defense is doing with the coverages. The number two thing is he wants them to go to what he deems is the right spot based on the play he calls and based on the coverage the defense gives, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the two things I gathered from that.
Basically, what he wants is a guy who follows his directions, throws the ball where he wants it to be thrown on time, and takes the hit. No excuses. Follow my design. No excuses. Make the throw.
So who's that guy in the NFL right now? It's Kirk Cousins, right? That makes sense. That makes so why
his prime it was Ben Roethlisberger too. The dude was huge.
Right. So why you like Kirk Cousins, that makes sense to me. So now we get into this year, right? People are speculating. They ask him the question, Kyle, who do you believe? What would you look for in your quarterback? And his answer was, I look for a guy who has the opportunity to be one of the top guys. So I hear that and I say, okay. And I see why you like Kirk Cousins. Maybe he could be a top guy in your offense, but in my opinion, there's a physical ceiling to Kirk Cousins that there isn't a ceiling to the other top guys.
But you can see why he likes Nick Mullens too, and you saw it and you heard it in the press conference last night. Remember?
Right. So we're getting to that, right? Yeah. So now the thing that stuck out to me yesterday in his press conference was when the reporters were basically asking about Nick Mullens' first pick. He said, "Well, it's okay to me because he went to the right spot with the ball." So it didn't strike him as egregious. Where I kind of sirens alarm the bells is, well, he couldn't make the throw, right? And part of playing quarterback, I feel like, is making the throw. And now look, Nick Mullens is a backup, right? He's not physically capable. I understand. But to me, going to the right spot, right, there's this context. Like if you take a guy like Kyler Murray, in terms of his field vision and everything, he's not Deshaun Watson. There's Deshaun Watson who comes into the NFL ready to go, pretty much always knows where to go with the ball, right spot. Joe Burrow's somewhat like that. And Patrick Mahomes, since he started, has been of that. But then you have Kyler Murray and Josh Allen, especially Kyler Murray, who right now, their offense is bad, but he doesn't always go to what the coverage dictates as the right spot with the ball. Kirk Cousins does, but Kyler Murray doesn't. Who do you think's the better quarterback, Kirk Cousins or Kyler Murray? It's Kyler Murray. He's way more physically gifted. So that's where this entire conversation.
So what you're saying is Shanahan would rather have a robot. He'd rather have a robot who does exactly what he says, reads the coverage exactly right, but can't improv, can't go off script. He basically wants someone to do what he said. He wants to be the quarterback, but he can't. So he wants a guy who goes where he wants him to go and throws when he wants him to throw. Basically, he wants to be the quarterback himself.
Right.
Deep down.
And so there's that level where that's where when we come to start evaluating and looking at who's going to be their next quarterback and all of that, this is something that I think that has to be taken into account. Because the other thing is, I just don't think there's a lot of college quarterbacks, especially in his offense, that'd be ready to go to the right spot every time straight out of college. I don't think there's many, in fact. Like Deshaun Watson is not in this draft.
I can think of two in this draft, maybe three.
Yeah, so Deshaun Watson is not in this draft where he's special in every which way, and Patrick Mahomes is not in this draft. So he's going to – I wonder where that adjustment's going to be. Kyle's opinion could have evolved, but this is going to be the conversation, right? Because there's another layer to this too. So I've put it kind of documented. I'm an avid fan of Chris Sims' podcast, and part of the reason I became a fan is because he talks positively about my favorite coach, Kyle Shanahan, because that's his best friend. And him and his dad had a recent conversation about Patrick Mahomes, and his dad asked him the question. He goes, "Who do you think would have allowed Patrick Mahomes to play the way Patrick Mahomes plays right now? This freeness to kind of be himself and play this exact way." And he said 3 coordinators, and they were not Kyle Shanahan. He said Sean Payton, he said Brian Daboll, they said Doug Peterson, and they debated on maybe Bruce Arians. Why is that interesting to me? It's because I think that there has to be a point where Kyle Shanahan, if he drafts a guy, everybody loves Zach Wilson. I think the way Zach Wilson plays, there is a point where Kyle Shanahan's going to have to be okay with Zach Wilson not going to the right spot, but also making plays, because that's what Kyler Murray does. He doesn't always go to the right spot. Sometimes his progression doesn't make sense, but he often makes plays, and they win games because he carries.
Kyle says a lot. He's like, a lot of these quarterbacks in college and high school, they run around a lot. That's what he says. They run around a lot, and they win Heismans that way. And they get to the NFL and realize you can't do that anymore. And the thing when I watch Zach Wilson in particular is he runs around a lot. Runs
Right.
around a lot. And
that
I'm
brings us
not saying that's not good. I'm just saying when Kyle looks at that, he's going to be like, I don't know. Maybe he loves Zach Wilson, but I could also see him be like, well, I mean, a lot of his play, how many of his plays come off script?
I mean, you got to love the way he throws the ball, right? Like, you got to love that. You got to take a chance on that. That's going to be the thing. Well,
I like
is Kyle going to be ready for that?
Anyway, I think it's time we're about 20 minutes deep. We got about half hour left, 35 minutes left. Let's start going through these prospects because that's the topic now. The season's over. It's quarterback time. The Niners are going to get a new one. Jimmy Garoppolo most likely is not coming back next year. And these guys all played this weekend. So we have more data. And Vish and I disagree about a lot of these guys. So we're going to have an academic, mature, respectful style debate. Although sometimes I think we agree. So let's start with, we're not going to talk Trevor Lawrence.
Real quick. Someone did point out that they said, I think Kyle would be fine with a quarterback with mobility. Absolutely, he would be fine with a quarterback with mobility. That's not the question. I think he'd be totally okay with that. But what he wants is someone that's going to go to the right spot and be tough first. And the quarterback that he gets with the mobility might not be the guy who...
If the quarterback is constantly improving, then Kyle can't take credit for his system. It's what happened in Green Bay with McCarthy. Everything in Green Bay was improv, Aaron Rodgers, and it was because he had to, because Mike McCarthy stinks. But Kyle Shanahan wants that. He wants the scheme to be the star. He wants everyone to know that it works. And if his quarterback's bailing on the design of his plays, Kyle's going to be very, very upset about that, even if the quarterback is making it work on his own. I'm just telling you, he's going to look for guys who at least stick with the design of the play long enough. And that's toughness. That's the toughness he looks for.